In this video we will discuss about the overexpression of how this overexpression of FAK suppress the apoptosis in the compliant matrices. Compliant matrices means soft matrices. In this paper they have used 0.4 kilopascal as a compliant matrices. So in the previous video we have seen that TGF-beta affect SMAD4 pathways. So they checked the effect of SMAD4 pathways in these differential expressions in these rigid and compliant matrices, and there researchers are able to find out that SMAD4 does not play a role towards differential EMT expressions in these rigid and compliant matrices. So from the literature they checked not just the SMAD4 pathways plays a role towards TGF-beta induced EMT, but FAK pathways also plays a role. So they wanted to check whether these FAK pathways is the reason that they are able to see differential EMT expressions in the rigid and compliant matrices. So first they checked the FAK expression levels in the using immunofluorescence, and there they are able to see that in the case of rigid matrices FAK expression levels are high. However, when they treat with TGF-beta they remains in the similar region. Similarly, when they check the FAK expression levels in the compliant matrices, their expression levels are low without TGF-beta treatment, and after TGF-beta treatment they also remains in the similar region or similar levels. And these things they have validated using the Western blot, where we can see that the phosphorylated FAK with and without TGF-beta are in the similar range, and also the total FAK, although it looks like a slight increase, but the literature claims that they are in the similar range. And for the rigid matrices, when we compare it with these compliant matrices, their values are high. However, it remains in the similar range of this total FAK. It can be seen here. And thereafter, when they quantify it, we are able to see that the phosphorylated FAK levels, when they compare it with the compliant matrices, they are high. However, in between, they are in the similar range. And similarly, total FAK in between range are similar range. In between, that is with and without TGF-beta, within the rigid matrices, they are in the similar range. And similarly for the compliant matrices. However, when we compare the compliant matrices with the rigid matrices, the levels are high, and therefore they also compared the ratio of activated FAK or the phosphorylated FAK with this total FAK, and they are not able to see any significant changes. From this, it looks like the FAK does not seems to be differentially regulated and does not seems to be affected by the different matrices. Thereafter, they checked the literatures where it is shown that overexpression of FAK can help in this EMT transition. So they overexpressed FAK and then checked the EMT signaling, EMT markers such as this SNAIL1, and what they are able to see that there is no change in the SNAIL1 expressions with overexpressed FAK or without overexpressed FAK, and these levels are still remains below compared to the SNAIL1 expressions in these rigid matrices that is shown in this panel E. However, when they check the apoptotic markers, they are able to see that compared to the case where they used only the compliant matrices without FAK overexpressions, the apoptotic markers goes down when in the case where they culture the cells in the compliant matrices with FAK overexpressions. This could indicate that this overexpression of this FAK helps in the suppression of apoptosis, but it does not help in the EMT, that is epithelial-to-mesenchymal transition. It still remains low compared to the rigid matrices when both the cells are treated with TGF-beta. So from these results and from the results that they have seen in the previous experiments, they come to the point. So far, they come to the point that SMAD4 does not have SMAD4 and FAK does not have a significant role towards these EMT transitions that is induced by TGF-beta in rigid and compliant matrices. However, this FAK has a role towards this suppression of this apoptosis. The FAK has inverse roles towards apoptosis in the compliant matrices. The high FAK expressions could lead to the low apoptosis or low apoptotic markers in the compliant matrices. So I hope you understood how they check this overexpression of FAK, how they come to the point that overexpression of FAK can suppress apoptosis in the compliant matrices. If you need to understand more about these experiments in detail, you can go through the reference that has been provided in the description. That's all for this video. Thank you for your time.